Welcome along, folks, once again for RPL Tier 2. It is Season 16, it's Round 2, and we're at a track some of the drivers dearly love, or you either dearly hate it. Either way, it is Suzuka, it is Japan. You see that big roller coaster in the background when you go through Sector 3? Yeah, well, you either want to go on the Ferris wheel or the roller coaster. And some driver that does like the roller coaster, Blue Gagi, returned last week. Do you want to be a driver returning and win tonight? Or do you want to be a driver who has not won yet and has been here not as long? Maybe a guy like Lyro Fusion? Maybe a repeat winner from Tier 2, but hasn't won this season? Night Owl? Or do you want to go back to back and be Reese Dainty? Because Reese Dainty won a race last week in Portimao to open up the season. And he has won 6 of his last 12 Tier 2 races. Or do you want to be the other previous champion in Tier 2 and win? Our reigning champion, Georgia Williams, who has not been in the top 5 in the last 3 races. Lots of headlines to go through, lots of things to talk about, but nonetheless, I'm your commentator, Ryan Searles, and alongside me tonight, once again, Faded Knights. Faded, very good to have you. But yeah, that Ferris wheel in the background, a lot of drivers will definitely feel like this is either a roller coaster or a Ferris wheel. They're rather going in circles, or they're just doing what Blugaki likes to do. But nonetheless, what do we expect for tonight's race? We've had first-time winners around this circuit, first-time pole sitters around this circuit. In fact, I look at my sheet right now, the last... of the last 6 qualifying sessions, of the 5 we have recorded, we're not going to count one of them due to grid penalties, but every single one of those recorded of the 4, the qualifying gap was under 500ths for first and second. So are we expecting another close one once again tonight?
Glad to be here, Ryan. Yeah, we should be expecting some close finishes tonight. As you said, this track is sort of like a roller coaster in a nutshell. Tricks and turns around a tricky Suzuka circuit here. The cars that are going to have more corner speed and are going to be more efficient in the corners are going to have more of an advantage than some. I don't think the cars that are going to be heavy on the straights are going to do really much, if anything, at all.
Last week, let's recap you folks, since I mentioned Reese Dainty and Georgia Williams, 2 of the drivers who have championships in RPL Tier 2 in the past. Georgia Williams was taken out in the first lap by Polo God. He got a penalty for it, but the 2 ex-teammates came together, and it did involve, I believe, Torn Penguin or Lyro Fusion. One of the 2 involved, regardless. Polo was in a through-ride situation, and Georgia's race never got better. Once again, minimal points for last season's champion. Reese Dainty took out Night Owl, and because he gave him the place back, the stewards said racing incident and actually gave it no further action. Reese Dainty won in Portimao with JTK for Alpine in second place. You definitely got to think maybe tonight could be the reason he gets banned from the tier because of being too fast. Third place was Mintoki. She did not finish third on track, but again, keeping it consistent, keeping it within the track limits, Mintoki got a podium for yet another RPL season. Something I want to mention about last week's race, Lyro Fusion in the points. Night Owl, pole, but in the points. Night Owl and Reese came together, but a good battle they had, and they thoroughly enjoyed it regardless of their contact. Last week's race is done with. This week's race is on. And something a lot of the drivers were saying, especially Reese Dainty, who came back to Tier 2 this time, Faded, he said this field is really, really close, very competitive. I did say that in our season preview, and I do expect this to be close once again, whether it be the finish of the race, the finish of qualifying. But throughout the whole entire season, we've only had 1 round, so there's really not much of a point going over our standings besides the fact that Red Bull lead our constructors. But I guess my question is to you, do we expect this to be close like this the entire season? Obviously, 1 race is done and in the books, but we have quite the grid this season. We have Tadpole returning. We have Lennon and Night Owl who went over to Ferrari. We have Penguin and what was originally going to be Danny and Red Bull, but it's Reese. George is there. Fusion's there. Polo God's there, but he's not tonight. Mintoki there. Gagi. Lots of others that we haven't named as well. So, we mentioned it potentially being close tonight, Faded, but what about this whole entire season?
Well, what I'm expecting is pretty much the top 7, top 8. I even include George Williams in there. So top 9 from the race classification in Portugal are probably going to be close together throughout the season. I'm expecting Alpine to maybe get it together with Shorts and help cause there. But I'm also expecting George to have better performances than he had in Portugal. Of course, he finished P9 in that race, 22 seconds behind the leader, Reece Dainty. I'm expecting at least a resurgence from George and maybe Shorts as well in that Alpine.
Remember, last week we entered the race with some wet weather, and we also had qualifying have some wet weather a part of the event as well. So just something to keep ourselves in mind of. We did have a wet race here as well in Season 7. But yeah, lots of wet weather, whether it be previously at the circuit or in recent races. Even Hungary last season, we had some wet weather. So I would not be shocked at all to see wet weather appear in tonight's race. So let's recap you on our weekend so far. We started yesterday out with Tier 3 in Qatar. Once again, another race, could be one in the stewards room, but it was Devin taking the checker flag ahead of, I believe, Mali and Timbed. Nonetheless, Tier 3 seems to never disappoint in terms of our starts of the seasons. Season 2, we had quite the start. Season 1, we had our championship winner not even go on to win until, round 3, I think it was. But still, we've had blistering starts to the seasons in RPL, and we're going to continue to see even better. But yeah, Tier 3, Qatar, Devin won. Subject to maybe change, Mali got on pole. Here are your other headlines to go over ahead of tonight. So here's the drivers and where they're racing on our screens right now. But before we load in, I want to tell you about the drivers who may have qualifying bans, may have something go on. So I think it's Goodman's, which is Goldman, Choke, it used to be called, if I'm correct.
Yep.
2 qualifying bans to serve. One of them should be served tonight. We have been told that there is, specifically to the team principals, no lower tier contracts to be signed for next game yet. There are a few reasons to this. 2 of them, in fact. One of them being a potential new point system that was gone over in yesterday's Tier 3 stream from George Williams. Something they may try to implement next game. Again, it's not official, but George has mentioned it very briefly. Something that also was mentioned behind the scenes very briefly, and we don't know what this involves, but there could be a lot more to it. Potential academy changes next game. Just remember, F125, I mean, obviously the 2025 season has not started yet, but Haas, they'll have Toyota instead of Ferrari engines. Is that something they could be considering behind the scenes as to what they may change with academies? I'm not too sure, but again, only Tier 1 contracts have been signed. So in terms of our lineups tonight, let's tell you what is different compared to what we usually would have. Leon Miner in the V-Carb, usually be Zakaria. One thing to note from the Red Bull Academy is it is a dry qualifying session by the looks of it. And I'll check out the race when I get a chance to. But yeah, one thing I want to mention from the Red Bull lineup, besides Leon being in the RB, Torn Penguin tomorrow, because of Leo Lund's race ban, will be getting a Tier 1 opportunity in the V-Carb. His best shot yet at getting points, which he has not done. So, Torn Penguin, lots of expectations. And luckily tonight he's alongside a Tier 1 champion and also Tier 2 champion. With that being said, Gobert is making his debut in the Williams tonight. Believe your eyes right now, because we have the Aston Martin teammates. Jelly Mega Fan is Wavy Knife. Blue Gagi is his usual self. And guess what? These two collided here in Season 11 Japan. And there's also a rivalry video they have on our YouTube channel. But they are teammates tonight. Welcome back, Wavy Knife. Also, welcome back, Beatnik, to the Mercedes Academy for tonight. He's on loan to Mercedes and making a Tier 2 return in the car that he last won in. First won in this tier. That was in Brazil to end Season 9. So in terms of our Ferrari Academy, we have Tadpole, who didn't race round 1, racing tonight. We have Choke, who did not race round 1, I believe, racing tonight as well. Hyper in the Sauber. We have JTK reserving in the Alpine because Woda is not here. I believe that should be it, but nonetheless, this is going to be a fun race. This is going to be a fun circuit to commentate upon. And lots of famous corners faded. We've got 130R. I believe we've got 200R. We've got
Spoon.
Spoon Curve, the Casio Triangle, the S section, the Degnas. This circuit, you either love it or you hate it. But this should be a fun one. Our first driver we're on board with is F1 Shorts. As he goes through the Casio Triangle to start his lap, I will let you take this one away.
So, coming to the start-finish line now, he's going to apply the DRS, not using the boost as of yet. Doesn't seem like he is going to use it at all heading into turn 1. DRS shut right there. He's going to drop it to 4th gear. Locks the front right a little bit, but all sound and steady for F1 Shorts at the moment. Goes through sector 1 now. He's going to approach the line in just a couple of corners. There's the boost. Flickering the 5th gear line, now up to 6th gear. Steady on the wheel, steady with the hands. 32.0 first sector. Locks the front right again. Boost applied for just a split second. Make sure you don't slide into this section. Calm and steady for F1 Shorts. There's the boost again. 5th gear. Holds 5th gear for a little bit. Now into 6th and now 7th gear. Steady at 177 miles an hour. Drops to the 5th quickly. To 4th now. Should be a pretty solid lap for F1 Shorts in the 2nd gear. Sorry, 2nd sector. 20% on the battery. 111.4 combined with the 1st and 2nd sector. Now he's going through the tough braking zone. Keeps it in the 3rd gear to the line, Ryan Searles.
F1 Shorts will be our second driver to get the benchmark time in. He is fastest 28.0. Shorts also said he wanted to go out earlier in qualifying to avoid the disaster he had in Portimao qualifying because Faded, if you remember, I believe he invalidated his first lap or just simply didn't go out quick enough because the rain came super quick and he did not get the lap he would have wanted in. The real Fusion is Academy teammate, his fastest 27.5. He'll pull out of the way of his Academy teammate, JTK, and former champion, JTK. Season 13 champion, JTK, will ride on board with. But yeah, just to speak a little bit on Portimao, rain in qualifying, rain in the race. We have a dry qualifying session and an overcast race. So it's good to see that we'll have dry throughout the entire event. Same thing in qualifying as the race. So now 6 drivers have clocked in times. Here's JTK going through turn 8. Now the 2 Degnas. What's it going to be like for the Dutchman? He's actually got a Dutchman teammate in a little moment there for JTK. Upsetting the back of that race car is not what he would have wanted. Now, you got the hairpin. And here's where 200R is. Right here, this long right-hander. We always talk about 130R, but we never talk about enough 200R. That corner, we saw lots of side-by-side action in our most recent Tier 1 race and prior Tier 2 races. I expect the drivers to continue to dice it out in that section like they always do. Spoon curve complete for the Dutchman. In fact, you could say both Alpine are the Dutchmans because they both are Dutchmans. But this one's a champion, and he knows what he's doing very well. 2nd place last week, and I believe, if I'm correct, in Brazil, a top 5 qualifying in his first race back in the tier. But the Season 13 champion of Tier 2 will cross the line now with ERS on use to the line. It will not be pulled, but it is 6th fastest, just leapfrogging his teammate by a little less than a tenth.
Yeah, and he was even in Sector 1 and 2 with his teammate, and then Sector 3 jumps him by just almost a tenth, 97 hundredths, so great effort for JTK there.
Mintoki crossing the line, making it 2 Mercedes to clock in times, and Mintoki goes fastest! 27.3. The South Korean right now is on pole once again. This tonight could be her 5th pole if she is successful with it. Our slowest driver in our session, 14 of them have clocked in times. Leon Miner the slowest. That's a hefty gap. Hefty gap.
4 seconds to the leader.
I know Beatnik's not going to be happy that he's 8 tenths behind his teammate back in Brazil a few weeks ago to finish out season 15 of Tier 2. He was not happy. He was a full second behind Alex Norris. But again, I think Beatnik returning to Tier 2 is not having too high expectations, but he'll be happy to know that he's not too far off Gagi either. Night Owl in the first sector is down by 38 thousandths, and he just sent that one right into the first Degna and second Degna. We'll see if this is successful enough for him to better his time or not. But both Ferraris are down there in 9th and 11th. Night Owl was on pole in his first Ferrari race last week. And Lennon, Johnny, he's had a lot of bad qualifyings, but last week it seemed to be the race where things turned around.
Yeah, no, Lennon's race pace is, very good. His qualifying pace is there or thereabout. But, today they have to, quote-unquote, lock in pretty much. McLaren and Red Bull are absolutely dominating these Ferraris in terms of qualifying, as Goldman's is out of this qualifying session to serve that quali ban. But yeah, they pretty much got to get it together, advance places, because they should be ahead of, the Alpine and the Aston and Bugatti. That's where they should be at. But
that is
that
Lennon pitting and aborting. Yeah, Lennon aborted the lap. I don't know what happened there for him to abort the lap, but he clearly was not happy with whatever had gone on and goes back to the pit lane. Our only Williams in the session tonight is Gobert, and we'll see what the Williams driver does, but he goes off the circuit, and he'll mow some lawn in the process, too. Not what he would have wanted to get grass on his wheels at all. Lennon is back out there, excuse me. It was Night Owl who went in, I believe. No, was it Night Owl? I don't remember. Either way, one Ferrari went in, one Ferrari goes out. And we have Tadpole, former Tier 2 champion, on a lap, and that's Gobert spinning at turn 8. Hopefully he gets out of the way when Tadpole does approach him. But yeah, Tadpole actually won in his last Tier 2 race that he did. That was back in Bahrain of Season 13. And then he was banned from the tier because of he being too fast. So now, back to Tier 2 after not being so fast, along with Reese Dainty. We'll see what he has in store here. Tadpole, that win in Bahrain was after spinning out in the race. So him being in Haas this time, it's good to see that maybe his Ferrari opportunity is not right away. He has a chance to prove himself first. And obviously we'll find out tonight if he's too fast for the tier like he was last time. Hairpin time and now 200R. I really feel like it's 200R and approaching 130R is where you're going to see a lot of drivers use the battery. I don't really think you'll see it a lot on the main straight.
Whoa.
Little wiggle from Tadpole. He keeps it going. But the driver in the number 70 almost had a heroic moment.
He almost had a 70-degree slide off the track.
I was just going to say. Yeah. Thank you for that.
As he goes through the tricky braking zone, drops it into third gear.
Oh!
Whoa! 5-place grid penalty. Tadpole goes 12th. I wonder what happened there between Gagi and
I'm going to go look on Gagi's stream, but that's down at turn 1. And it's not the first time Gagi has had a grid penalty because of something else. J&T had a grid penalty in this race 2 seasons ago, I think it was. Yeah, 2 seasons ago, and Gagi got pulled because of it, but Gagi actually collided with his teammate who was on the racing line. Gagi avoided the grid penalty back in Season 14. J&T got it this time. He's the one with the grid penalty. I'm looking at his stream now to see what happened as we got F1 Shorts improving. Gagi coming out of the pit lane. Lennon there as well. Gagi trying to get out of the way of Penguin, and Lennon hit him. So that's what happened. As Lennon was on a lap, Penguin was coming out of the pit lane. Penguin passed Gagi. Gagi got hit. And we're going to send you the point of view of this incident in the Twitch chat. But a very unfortunate incident for Blue Gagi and Lemon.
Yeah, unfortunate for Gagi. If he keeps himself in 7th, he drops to 12th, which is where Tadpole is right now. And that is not ideal for the Aston Martin driver.
Yeah, so this, like I said, this happened again at turn 1. We're riding on board with George Williams while we talk about this, but Penguin got out of the way. Gagi, he didn't even look really in his mirror at all, and that, I think, is going to be a penalty for Gagi. Let's just send the point of view so once we're done talking about George's lap, I can have you or the others in chat give a verdict on that. George Williams approaching the hairpin, and this race 2 seasons prior, again, one of those races that George had to serve the qualifying ban due to his antics back in season 12. And this race, he almost came from last place to win it. He finished second behind championship rival Red Fire. I really think if George is going to be racing a Mercedes tonight, it's going to be Mintoki. But at the same time, I don't think that's the only driver he'll be racing for the victory. Sauber getting out of the way, but George is up by a 10th and a half, and this could be a pole position for him. Remember, last season when he was on his championship hunt, only 1 pole for the Welshman. Cross the line now, ERS on use. George does improve, but he does not go to pole. Lyral Fusion stays on the front row. We have improvements further behind that as well. That was crossing the line. That was JTK finding time, just 3 milliseconds ahead of the teammate. Torn Penguins on a lap. Night Owl completed one. Night Owl jumped up there. Reese Dainty now has his opportunity to do just that, and he has ERS all the way used, and 2/10 behind pole now. Teammate Penguin looks like he backed off, and he will not be completing the lap. But yeah, I would have said that would have not been Gagi's fault, but looking back at it, the fact he does not look behind him once right there, I think that's going to have him liable to a penalty, no doubt about it.
Yeah, it seems like when he was getting out of the way, merged onto the track, and yeah, there was Lennon.
I'm actually surprised Penguin was the one who didn't collide with Lennon or Gagi right there, because Penguin passed Gagi out of the pit lane, but Gagi was the one ultimately colliding with Lennon because he sat on the racing line, and obviously Penguin was very quick to get going. Gagi was not. We're watching Beatnik in the S section, and it was this section last night that he was losing a lot of time to teammate Mintoki, trying to compare himself to the teammate and find some time. We'll find out if he's done this section better this time, and by the looks of it, he is not. He's not done Sector 1 better, but then again, as you know, Faded, it's not where you qualify, it's where you finish. Beatnik has not really had the qualifying pace here, and in fact, his only pole in RPL F1 cars came when he did the Alpine pole back in F1 of Season 7 Canada. So I don't expect Beatnik to do a lot tonight in qualifying, but as long as he's just near Lennon or Gagi, he's off!
No!
He's into the wall, and somehow he kept it without getting damaged. The fans applaud that, but I applaud him for the fact that he kept it without getting damaged. That was a scary moment for the Nevada native.
That is insane. Keeps it clean with just a little bit of gravel on the tires, but smooth sailing.
How did he save that from getting any worse?
I have no idea, but Mintoki on her outlap now.
And this will be the one to watch because she is trying to get a 5th pole and a 2nd consecutive season. Last season, she was the fastest driver in qualifying. She only won 1 race, but is she going to start what could be a championship hunt early on? Remember, this is a closer field, so regardless, look at what the qualifying times could be. We have 3 minutes remaining, folks. Give us your predictions in the Twitch chat if you have not already. But the South Korean, who has won 2 races in RPL Tier 2 and has that 100% finishing rate, is starting a lap now. And I received word before this race that she will be getting a chance, supposedly, in the Tier 1 Aston tomorrow. Her best opportunity yet. But the opportunity right now is going to be for getting a 5th pole position. Look at this in S section, just sending it in there. Take it away.
Absolutely locked in right now. Eyes wide open for Mintoki. Focus is 110% right now. And the battery was being used through there. Look at that, almost a 10th up in sector 31.5. Gonna send it through here. Penguin has joined back into the section. Hairpin we go. Takes it beautifully. Boost being applied for Mintoki. Still at just about under 50% battery. Gonna save enough to the line, most likely. And yes, she's saving 5 to 7% while braking. A little off the road there, but smooth sailing. The battery being applied, 19 100% on the battery.
Oh my days.
Up almost 0.3 of a second. This is a wonder lap. Keeps it in
Can
third
she
gear.
complete it, though? That's what you gotta wonder. This is gonna be sensational if she gets to the line in time to do it, and she
does
has.
it!
27-0, 4/10 clear of the pack.
Unreal.
That, as you said it, was a wonder lap, and that is incredible. The teammate going out on track and may not have enough time to get to the line. Mintoki better let Beatnik go, or else Beatnik may not even have a chance here to get to the line. Oh, Mintoki off! Mintoki...
And that might have been a spin. Like, Beatnik
That
might
was
have
a
hurt
spin.
her.
I don't think Beatnik spun her, but she was trying to get out of the way, or at least speed up, and she hit the wall. The only mistake, the only thing she's done wrong in this qualifying session. We switch to the McLarens, who both are approaching turn 1. Lyral Fusion navigating now what's going to be the S section. Traffic in front, cars queuing up. You gotta make sure you get out of the way if you're not on a lap. Even if you are on a lap and you make a mistake, still get out of the way. Regardless, it's an Alpine, that would be F1 shorts. But George, Fusion, what's the times in Sector 1? Are they up? Are they down? Fusion responding by only going a 10th up. George even
perfect.
more than that. George could get to the front row. Remember, like I said, during his championship hunt last season, 1 pole only for the Welshman. Do we have others on laps? We're going to find out. We have Night Owl down in the first sector. Dainty will complete the first sector. But while we're watching the McLarens, we're going to switch to other drivers who are going to cross the line first. Our first one would have been Leon Miner, but it's going to be someone else instead. It's going to be Penguin, who already got the checkered flag and is not going to improve because he got there before the time ran out.
Jelly.
Getting the checker flag will be Wavy, and that is 10th place. Beatnik did not get there, so Beatnik has ran out of time. 12th place for the American. Now we switched back to the McLarens. What are they doing? George up by 2/10 though. We switched to Fusion, who won the Tier 3 title last season and stays in the front row. George betters that and tied! It's even! George and Mintoki both have the same time, and the game right now, I believe, gave George the purple time, but Mintoki still remains first. It's a dead even split, just like Season 7 Canada when the 2 Ferraris did it. Reese Dainty crosses now, and can we see a 3-way tie? No, but Reese Dainty gets the second row with 3rd place. JTK is next, and JTK can't find time. Goggy can't find time, but it is a dead even split there with George and Mintoki doing the same lap time. Who's going to be on pole? Obviously, Mintoki did it first, so the game gives it to Mintoki. But George just misses out on pole by probably the slimmest of margins you can imagine.
Wow.
That's insane.
I'm speechless. I can't think of a statement to say right there other than that is absolutely insane.
But that's a good lap considering what George was doing in the first sector, and then the second, and then obviously the final. Reese is 3rd, Fusion's 4th, Night Owl 5th. Both McLarens in the top 2 rows. JTK, Lennon, Penguin, Shorts up there following, and Blue Goggy running at our top 10, who has a 5 place along with Lennon. So Lennon and Goggy both got 5 places. Outside our top 10, we got names like Beatnik and Tadpole. But F1 Shorts said, I gave George the slipstream, and it almost got him pole. That right there is insanity to end our qualifying session. George and Mintoki doing the same exact lap time there. And you know, I think it's fitting to say, since I said in Mexico, Hawk Tua put that thing in the front row. Literally, with those two, it's probably split between the spit coming out of Hawk Tua girl's mouth. That's how close it is. I mean, you can't decide that any closer. Insanity.
Yeah, and it's a good thing to see Academy teammate Shorts helping out pretty much his brother George Alp Williams there in the McLaren. But George is gonna have to fight this. He's gonna have to fight it hard against Mintoki. Mintoki has already said, let's not take each other out. They're going to be passive aggressive, but please be clean.
Red Bull there once again with Reese Dainty, another top 3 qualifying for him, for a driver who's not really good in qualifying. Again, expected medium to hard, dry race. Will we avoid the calamity we usually get in the S section? We see differing strategies. We have 15 seconds. What do you expect on lap 1 and the race here?
What I'm expecting is pretty much a clean start. They're all going to hopefully get through okay, and we shouldn't see that much colliding into one.
So Mintoki earns her 5th pole. Starting on pole, what's going to happen? The 5 red lights come on for another rodeo of Suzuka Racing. The 5 lights on out of the drivers, and it is lights out, and away we go. You see George already move off the line. Fusion maybe a terrible start, but there's actually someone who's got a worse start behind. Movement further back. Here's George diving up Mintoki's inside, side by side. George trying to put the fight to the South Korean and can't hang on, but he slots in behind. Further back, 2 wide with the Red Bull and the Ferrari. We have also 2 wide action with the Sauber and the Aston. Contact, and that's also Torn Penguin off. Torn Penguin is losing places, plummeting down the order. So is Reese Dainty. So something has happened to both Red Bull drivers. An absolute nightmare for Red Bull, with Penguin who lost places there, and Reese Dainty who followed suit a little bit later. Side by side in Degna's. That's the Aston of Gagi. Ran off the road by Hyper, but Hyper with a ballsy send went for it, and it didn't pay off for Gagi. But a little switcheroo here at the hairpin. There's contact. Mintoki a little up and under. George is trying on her, but no success just yet.
Yeah, absolutely just traumatic start for Red Bull. Reese is down 12 spots. Penguin's down 8.
George, a little mishap right there coming out of the spoon curve corners. JTK up 2, Lennon up 3, Hyper up 3, and Hyper gained some places after the skirmish he had with Blue Gagi. But obviously the big losers, and the only guys losing places, both Red Bull drivers, so an absolute disaster for the Red Bull Academy. Even Leon didn't gain places right there at the back of the field. ERS on use, lap 1 complete. We're riding on board George Williams, who is trailing Mintoki by 3/10. George tried to send it, but no success, as we said.
Yeah, no, he is gonna have to just pretty much pick his point, pick the poison, and get Mintoki and get her fast. Because Mintoki is gonna play that defensive game that we know she knows how to play.
Look at this, Blue Gagi is in a sandwich with the team car that he used to race in, Red Bull. He is right there with Penguin. Oh, spin! Gobert's in the wall! Disaster again for another driver on our opening few laps. But yeah, as I was saying, Gagi caught in the sandwich with both Red Bulls. He's got to find his way away from this, or work with them and find the places. Gagi around this circuit has 1 podium that came back in Season 12, and it was this race that some drivers claim he should have won if it weren't for the safety car we had in the last time we ran here, Season 14. Dainty clears Tadpole for 11th, but we're riding on board once again with George, who is behind Mintoki. And Tadpole in trouble, as you said, damage to the car. But we switched to our tires now. Tadpole off at the spoon curve. Not sure what happened.
2/10 of a second as we go to lap 3. George fastest lap.
And he's not waiting around any longer. George Williams takes over at the lead of the race with the help of DRS. Mintoki, not much ERS on use compared to George. George saving a bit more on that tank. And Blue Gagi clears Reese for 11th. Tadpole speeding in the pit lane. Not sure what happened there, if the damage had an effect on him. But whatever happened to Tadpole there at Spoon Curve, he has not recovered since. And like we said, George better ERS than Mintoki. Still is the case there with George slightly boosting out of turn 8.
Yeah, 68% battery, or now 70 for George, 63 for Mintoki. So about the same as the train of cars, just staying pretty steady. Bulls left the session.
And I'm not sure if that's a lag out. Yeah, I'm not sure if that's a lag out or what that is, but again, Tadpole ran into trouble, and his return is not going the way he planned it to be for Tier 2. Yeah, so in chat, someone wondering what happened to Both Red Bulls. Well, we saw Penguin get boxed in and he lost out on places, but whatever happened to Reese, something happened later on to where Reese got caught out as well. So bad start for the Red Bulls. Gagi cannot find his way past the Sauber of Hyper. Hyper just blocking him off. And remember, these two had contact on lap 1. Hyper, it's with Gagi again. Gagi hit his rear wheel, and Hyper blocked him off from going past. And Hyper hits the Red Bull of Reese right there, and they're still squawking around right there. So Hyper not playing nice today with Gagi and Reese. Gagi and him make contact on lap 1, and Reese and Penguin find their way past, and Gagi says, if I can't find my way past, I may as well use the grass.
Yeah, I feel like Hyper's sort of egotistical driving right now, showing his aggressive side.
Yeah, not what we expect or like to see, but again, we like the aggressiveness, but is this too far, you have to wonder. Gagi not having the best of times behind the Sauber driver. Again, this is where they collided. Turn 9, the Degnas, and there's George getting overtaken by Mintoki. That is before the hairpin. Impressive stuff from the South Korean once again.
Yeah, you usually don't see many overtakes before the hairpin, so, yeah, well done for Mintoki.
Yeah, while we're focusing on the Gagi and Hyper battle, they swapped it around at the front of the field, but Gagi still can't find his way past the kick Sauber. He's going to lose DRS to Reese and Penguin, and he'll have no shot at getting through the field at this point. Look at, he cannot find a way past the Sauber. Oh, he hits the Sauber. Hyper's off. That's not the way to do it, but again, Hyper was much slower, and Gagi probably didn't react the best way he could have. We saw it place trade around that area once again. I think that was Chalke passing Hyper, but for our lead, here's George trailing Mintoki. Remember, they swapped it around moments ago. Will they do so into turn 1? George on the inside, throwing it in there and throwing it past. George reclaiming the lead of the race on lap 5. That's also Lennon overtaking Wavy for 7th, and the Red Bulls also trade places. That's Reese ahead of Penguin.
6-car train for the battle of the lead, and George controlling it as he should.
Again, as I told you, Faded, we're going to have George racing a Mercedes, Mintoki, right? But now, it's clear as day. We don't just have George racing a Mercedes, as I said before. We're going to have other cars involved in this mix, and Neural Fusion ducking out, maybe thinking of a move on the South Korean. Around the outside of the hairpin, it's not going to be pulled off this time, but Mintoki has a little tank slapper. Neural Fusion is there, and is given the space, the racing room, all the way to Spoon Curve. No way we go side by side here. Someone's going to have to back out. They both don't. Neural Fusion off the road, but they remain side by side, and both McLarens now run 1-2 in this race. So very class driving from both of them, and JTK could make it an Alpine Academy podium, and we're going to almost go side by side at 130R once again.
Yeah, it was a ballsy move from Fusion. Ballsy driving from all these guys in this train, 2x2 almost.
Mintoki shuts the door. Night Owl gets squeezed right there as well. Racing down the straight. Here's Shorts, also passing Night Owl.
2x2 sorting itself out to be single file.
They're just going to cost themselves time fighting it like this. Remember, you got to stay in DRS. Neural Fusion gets cut off. Mintoki now disrupts the 1-2, and that is further back. Real Hyper has had a real bad moment off the circuit at the final corner, and Wing is missing. 1.2 the gap.
Yeah, it has grown from that 3/10 gap that we were used to seeing in the early going, but now Mintoki's not going to have the power of DRS.
Oh! That's a slip up from Night Owl right there. Again, another driver in a sandwich. This time, it's the Alpine Academy sandwich. Alpine driver sandwich as well. Look at the mega run Shorts is having tonight. Right there with Academy teammate JTK. Both Dutchmen really running well. Excuse me.
Yeah, and I said pre-race that Shorts has to, sort of claw back to the pace of JTK. He's doing it pretty well.
Especially considering JTK, a former Tier 2 champion, it's safe to say maybe Short's getting his elbows out in terms of his pace. Maybe not the battles yet, but we could see that happen soon with Lennon, Wavy, and Beatnik trailing the train by, now less than a second. and could be getting a dose of DRS. Lennon doesn't have it, but again, he's so close to DRS. And as I was saying, you're letting Georgia Williams run away with it. Here's Fusion, once again re-overtaking the South Korean to make it a 1-2 for McLaren on track.
Yeah, and you're pretty much used to seeing this order of the grid. The McLaren's, dominating early, and Mitoki just sort of falling back in third. Mitoki pretty much just has to sort of ride with him and pick her time. I said George has to pick her time, or pick his time, sorry. Yeah, George is a female now.
Trouble. Issue. Real Hyper is backwards. And you don't want to be backwards in Formula 1, but he is not having the time here, and he's going to the pit lane. This could be day over.
Oh.
He hits the pit wall, and Real Hyper getting a little trigger happy on the throttle there. I was just going to ask with what you were saying, with this running order being as usual. If you're George, do you save ERS here and then let your teammate catch up so he has a chance to, I guess, have an opportunity to keep second and have the DRS on the main straight? Or do you, I guess it's racing, you got to be selfish, throw everything out the window and hope you are ahead of the DRS train? What does he hope for here as the gap is over a second again?
Well, what I would personally do is I would keep that battery somewhere in the 30 to 40, even 50% range. Right now they're running freaking 14 and 7%. Well, Mitoki's at 35. Mitoki's got battery to play with, whereas the McLarens, they're going to have to spend this lap sort of saving it.
And that's the thing. George used battery right there, exiting the Degnas. Real Fusion used battery coming out of the final corner. And again, is this just a game to stay in DRS between the two teammates or not? I really do wonder. Again, that gap, 9/10. So Fusion flirting with DRS, in it now. You know who else is flirting with DRS? Lennon. He's in that train now. So, more cars in this fight, but that's a mistake from Wavy Knife. And Wavy Knife lets Beatnik go, concedes the place. Probably the smart thing to do, but they will lose DRS due to that moment from Wavy Knife. Again, mistakes are going to be the difference in this race. And as you say, trouble again for Hyper. He'll be lapped this time. But as I was saying, what you say in playoff football, or even playoff soccer, whatever the case is, it's going to be about who avoids the least amount of mistakes. And this might be what it is with some drivers. Lennon at 130R is ahead of F1 Shorts. So both Dutchmen do trade places, and very cleanly at that. Very fair on both ends. But with that move, he's lost DRS, and that's what I was just going to say. It's about the mistakes you make, and definitely how quick you make these moves.
Indeed, and you say playoff football, and mistakes being made. Passing at the 1 yard line. That was pretty much what I can compare that to.
Yeah, Hyper yellow flags for him. He's left the session this time. I'm still unsure if that, just like Tadpole, is a disconnect or is it him leaving the session out of frustration. Regardless, 2 races that have gone down the drain for Ferrari Academy drivers. I'll get Tadpole an invite while you get Hyper one.
Right.
Tadpole's offline now, so I will refrain from doing that for right now because it won't let me
Hyper's
invite him if he's offline. So that's either, again, rage and frustration or an actual disconnection, probably by power cuts.
Could be.
Goatley has given Georgia a female name since you called Georgia female. He said
Georgina
Alp-Williams. Yeah, Georgia Alp-Williams. But regardless, though, ERS better this time for George. As you were saying, he might save some battery. He did. Little fusion in this train. And as I may have thought about, not backing it up, but saving ERS to help your teammate here be in this fight and not get overtaken. You know, McLaren, I feel like you want to have that rear gunner. They do have that rear gunner, but you want to have it so you can control this race and remain out front as we hit lap 10. They will do that, but will they stay in the same spots as they are right now? That'll be the question. Yes, they do. Beatnik, upper edge on Wavy, getting 8th place back, and that is Blue Goggy into the pit lane for the first pit stop of this race from our front-running drivers. Again, expecting this to be a medium hard, he will go hards.
Yeah, and it's pretty much early pit stop for Gagi here. From what I've seen, these tires can stretch 14, 15 laps if I'm not mistaken. So, bit early.
But not surprising, you want to try the undercut, especially when you're running that far back in this race. You have really nothing else you can gain.
No, not at all. Stagnant so far in the 6-car train.
Speaking of it, Lennon is next to Night Owl, but no longer alongside him, actually.
Working together pretty well in this train, the two Ferraris. JTK's got to be hoping. JTK's got to be hoping his teammate can at least get back to being up there with him.
I feel like if anyone were to do the undercut with Gagi, it needs to be Shorts because he is not gaining time in this train. In fact, he lost it. And Reese Dainty behind Wavy. And I believe we're going to see a move here. We are going to see a move here. Little Fusion's in, so he'll peel off and go to the pit lane. Reese Dainty is trying to find a way past the Aston, but it will be because he goes off to the pit lane. Teammate Penguin is racing him wheel to wheel down the main straight. And also joining the mix in the pit lane is F1 Shorts, who went to box for hard tires as well. So the drivers on mediums coming in early, maybe to prevent Blue Gagi from jumping them. But yeah, both Red Bulls do trade spots down that main straight. And 3 of the 5 drivers who have stayed out in this front pack are on the medium compound.
To me, Shorts jumped late into the pit lane. I'm not gonna complain about it, but just seemed
Some
a little
might,
late getting in there.
Yeah. Some might. Oh, and another stack up here in the hairpin. I think Night Owl may have got rammed by Lennon right there. Again, this accordion effect style of racing does occur more in these DRS trains rather than restarts or lap 1. And you know, you gotta be very mindful when you're running in this train like this, because you can easily ram the driver in front of you, and it will become costly. At 130R, Night Owl is looking to sneak a peek on JTK, but again, no success there. The fact that he thought about it is scary enough.
He could go for it here, but again, thinks better of it. 2 for 2 on the good decisions today for Night Owl.
Stays out, but Mintoki does not. Mintoki is into the pit lane. And almost sped right there. She locked it up in the process. Down the main straight, wheel-to-wheel action. Night Owl clears JTK, so Night Owl is in second place. And this 1-2 we're familiar to seeing with George and Night Owl is back once again.
Indeed. Night Owl, of course, going to be able to stay out longer on those white-walled hard tires as
Look at this.
Puts on the hards.
Out of the pit lane, Mintoki maybe overcut Fusion, you could say right there. Gotta warm up the hard tires, so the fact that Fusion's gonna be stuck behind the female driver in the S section may be frustrating.
Yeah, it's gonna fume them for a little bit, but all in all, should be hard racing between these two. As George Williams and Night Owl, or sorry.
Yes! 200R again, we see another move made. Lennon overtakes JTK.
What I was about to say, George and JTK have to be thinking their decisions of pitting maybe this lap or next.
I'm amazed with how much side-by-side action we've seen at 200R today. It's incredible. Mintoki threw on the Haas, and so is Lyral Fusion, but Lyral Fusion's not done. I think he wants to go for one more. He will not just yet. We switch to our leaders who might come in. George does. George is pitting and almost sped right there. JTK joins him to the pit lane, so all of our medium compound drivers pit.
It's good to see
except
that.
For Leon.
Yep. Of course, going on to the hard tires, this should propel Night Owl and Lennon into thinking about, you know, their pit strategy. Could see them in as late as 18, but ideally you want to pit about 15, 16.
Lyral Fusion passes Mintoki for net P2. Wavy clears Leon Minor and will flap the DRS, I believe, for a few moments while overtaking the RB driver. Still, both Ferraris have stayed out. Beatnik stays out. Penguin, Reese, also Choke down in 9th. Again, some started on hards and are reasonably going to stay out for now, but those on mediums have all pitted up in the front of the field. So it's just a waiting game to see where the others cycle out, and we're going to find out where that is. Advantage though, Fusion. Fusion got Mintoki there. Sorry.
Night Owl, Lennon, working together pretty well here. 4/10 the gap between the two as they're just controlling this thing at the moment.
I think the Alpine tire wear is what put Schwartz back there moments ago before the pit stops as Gagi and Leon are racing. And collision, Leon gets put out worse from it. Gagi gets ahead, though, in the process. I was just going to say, I think the Alpine tire wear really messed up GTK there, and also Schwartz more so. Beatnik is in the Red Bull sandwich, and right now, Fusion might get the net lead here on teammate George. Will he is now the question. Gaining, alongside and ahead of the reigning champion. Lyral Fusion is the net leader of this race. The Tier 3 champion is ahead. And JTK also gets it done for 9th. Again, that's net P4.
Now, was that team orders from McLaren, though?
Maybe.
Fusion on 2-lap older tires, you would think George would still be out there in the lead.
Good question. George may save his tires toward the end. George may be behind Fusion to save some battery. Some things you just got to question, and those are some things that we're questioning. 12 seconds the gap to Reese Dainty, the next car in front. And like I said, this top 5 yet to box. Both Ferraris running toe-to-toe. Leon Minor gets a track limit penalty. That's our first. And again, both Red Bulls as well. Also nip and tuck in this thing.
Yeah, they definitely are. Of course, they are not a pit stop ahead of
Here we go.
Fusion as Lennon in.
Lennon will blink first of the 2 Ferraris. Reese does not pit while Penguin stays out. But with that being said, Lennon on mediums. No surprise there. These guys will go mediums too, but first they're going to race it out. Here's Reese and Beatnik. A little flashback to previous days of RPL. Reese is ahead and clears the American. Lyral Fusion is ahead of George, but is he still going to be by turn 1? No. Mintoki might get this as well, but Mintoki slots in behind. Lyral Fusion overtaken for the net lead once again. But this McLaren duo is something you definitely have to watch out for. Lyral Fusion has what you could call a rear gunner if he was the net leader still. Now it's George having the rear gunner.
Indeed. He's going to have that pretty much minister defense, as you would call it, defending Mintoki here.
And look at who's caught up to DRS here after coming out of the pit lane. Lennon. And he's on the better compound. But as Mark would say, make sure you get these tires to the end of the race. Well, I'm sure Lennon will be definitely thinking about that quite a bit, considering he's on the better compound, but does not have the track position just yet.
Or the other quote from Mark, they have pitted as well. This is your true position.
Or this is your best opportunity to navigate these cars. And oh, big wiggle from Fusion right there, exiting the spoon curve. Now to 130R. He has the same ERS online compared to George, but what's Mintoki looking at? 68%. Lennon, purple sector 2. Reese Dainty finally comes in. Look at this defense from Lyral Fusion, putting it up and just slamming the door there on the Mercedes driver. Now,
Fusion.
Mintoki is on the inside of the McLaren. Do we see 3 abreast into turn 1 here with the racing action continuing on lap 16? Look at this! Oh my days! Oh, this got so tight. Lyral Fusion with a big dive in the inside to take the net lead back. That was awesome.
I was about to say, is Lyral Fusion releasing his inner Sergio Perez or what?
I was going to say, was that, what, Schumacher and Hakkinen at Spa?
That's what I'm saying,
you know, as well? There was a Haas coming out of the pit lane that was lagged out. That was Tadpole. Here we go at the Degnas. Lennon thought about it, but thought better of it. This action you're seeing
for the lead.
Yeah, pretty much what's going to be the lead when everything cycles out. Once again, racing action to the hairpin. Mintoki almost clips the McLaren, but around the outside, Lennon has pulled it off. Another great move before 200R. And does the Ferrari think about it this time in a spoon curve? No. Again, thrilling stuff for what's going to be the net lead when this all cycles out. You got to give it to him for keeping it clean as well with this tight action.
This is cinema.
Night Owl is in, and he might be part of this cinema as well.
Yeah, could be.
Lennon just trailing George by 2/10, but this is not easy for McLaren any longer. Penguin joins him.
Nick gonna cycle out leader of this race.
Reese Dainty ahead of F1 Shorts, but that was a big wiggle, I think, coming out of the last braking zone from the McLaren. I believe that was George. Lennon is there to pounce. 3 wide into turn 1. Lennon stays behind, but he knows there's still an opportunity waiting his way. George reclaims the net lead of this race back, and Beatnik can say he led a lap in this race. Night Owl and JTK swap it around. Ooh, big wiggle from the Ferrari. And Reese Dainty, 4 seconds adrift away from JTK. So our championship leader into this race, not over for him just yet. He still has some places he could gain, and Lennon gets overtaken there into the Degnas. More thrilling action on the circuit.
Yeah, Mintoki just making it happen in overtaking spots where you don't think.
Lennon got clipped there in this race 2 seasons ago by Blue Goggy, I believe, on the opening or later stage of the race, and that's something he doesn't want to relive. But you know what? We have a VSC deployed for something that's happened on the circuit. I don't really know what happened. I can't tell. Oh, that's Choke.
Oh, in the wall.
That is. He stalled. He stalled it.
No front wing. He's got to get it back on the track, or else this is a
safety
black
car.
flag.
Full safety car now. Full safety car, and Beatnik has just got the magic of the racing gods in his favor once again. Beatnik is getting flashbacks to Baku, probably, of Tier 3 when he was in a Haas and came out 3rd. Right now in the Mercedes, he has got the free cheap pit stop, and others come in. Beatnik's going to be the leader of this race, I think.
Beatnik's going to be the leader.
Maybe Night Owl will be, but regardless, it's still going to be a good spot for Beatnik. Yeah, Beatnik's not the leader, but he's still in a good spot. This is incredible. Our McLaren double stack, Alpine double stack, Reese and Night Owl, who just recently pitted, stay out along with Wavy. This is game on.
Wow.
That changes everything, as they would say. Yeah, it definitely was. I was just going to say with Lennon, it was actually the last lap with Goggy, and it was the first lap with J&T. It was both Red Bulls in this race. The last time we raced here, 2 seasons prior, that he probably doesn't want to relive tight action like that at the hairpin. And right there, he almost clipped Mintoki's rear and could have sent her spinning around. But yeah, Beatnik just got the gift of very big gifts there with 3rd place. His Valentine's Day present has come early. 3rd place. He was in no man's land. Welcome back to the top 3 Beatnik.
Doing it in one of the top cars, so good to see.
But this does hamper George, Lennon, even Fusion, who had a double stack, now down in 9th. So this is a completely different race from what we were wiring moments ago.
Yeah, I mean, anything can happen at the land of the rising sun.
I mean, Wavy's in this as well. He's actually got a real chance for points now. I didn't think that was possible, but even though he's on the hards, 7 laps, and we do have the full, obviously you see it's a VSC, it's actually a full safety car, as you can clearly see on our screens, but again, game didn't update it. Wavy has the chance simply because of track position. There was a race I commentated here back in 2020 that we had a late race restart and a lot of drivers pitted. It was one of the lower tiers of a league I owned. And again, track position here is so key. I know it's not too late in the race, but Wavy still has a decent chance with being in 4th right now. May not finish there, but he may finish better than what he did. And, well, scrap that.
He's in the pits.
Yeah, I think he missed the pit lane when he was trying to go in, and maybe he didn't want to double stack with Goggy as well, if I had to guess.
Well, I mean, The hards could have made it 16 laps. Wavy
Yeah.
playing the safe bet. Get on some new rubber.
All the drivers behind him do gain some places from it. George in 4th now, Lennon 5th. Lennon had the advantage, and same with Penguin, of not having to double stack with a teammate. Shorts, Fusion, they did have to double stack, and they have been affected the most from this. So just something to keep in mind from those who pitted compared to those who didn't. But yeah, Night Owl is going to be the leader of this race, and there's a car in between him and Reese Dainty. Again, it should be like this in the game, but it's not compared to real life. You can't unlap yourself, and I really wish that Haas was not in the way, as Tadpole is not in this session as we know it. So, advantage on this restart will go to Night Owl, regardless of what happens.
Right. And it's not a 2021 Abu Dhabi position where, lap cars can overtake.
Right, and it should be that way, because lap cars can overtake even in real life as well now.
Yeah.
Since that race. So, yeah, obviously something that Reese Dainty, Beatnik, George, they will not get any advantage from. And I'll tell you, the DRS in these closing laps are going to be super vital for the drivers. Remember, Reese on 3-lap mediums, Beatnik ahead of George when he really shouldn't have been, and Night Owl only 1 lap later on the mediums.
Short's making a good point in chat, saying fuel has been an issue in Japan. The safety car currently ruined the plan of going 3 extra laps of fuel for him.
Yeah, that's a fair point. That is a fair point. We're just waiting on the Haas of Goodman's, Goldman, or Chalke, as some of you may know him as, who caused the safety car to catch back up, and once he does catch back up, we'll be peeling the safety car into the pits and getting back going. Just a reminder for those of you who are new to RPL Formula 1, we have 3 tiers with F1 cars and 1 with F2. The F2 one runs on Sundays, 1 hour earlier than our F1 tiers. We have F1 Tier 1, F1 Tier 2, and F1 Tier 3 from Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 3 p.m. UK time. 3 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. UK time, all the way till the race ends. Full quali for Tier 1, short quali for Tier 2 and Tier 3. And just to keep an eye out on things if you're new, this is realistic performance. So, again, that's why you see the McLarens most of the time at the front of our field. And just a reminder on Drivers and Constructors Championship into this race. Reese Dainty, not really anywhere in this race, was back there. He got the help of the safety car as well, but instead of pitting like his teammate did, he chose to stay out. Same with Night Owl, and both of those 2 drivers finished 1st and 4th in Portimao. May put themselves in a better position in the championship due to that. Also, the Alpines right there, both in the points. 2nd in Constructors after the opening round. So, obviously, some teams, some drivers, trying to give themselves the upper edge on others into what could be next week's race with big points in Zandvoort.
Indeed. Should be restarting lap 21, maybe 22.
Thank you for the correction in chat, Timbet, about lap cars. But yeah, exactly. We don't have that on this game where lap cars can overtake. So yeah, we're gonna see Tadpole in the way there of Night Owl when we get this restart back going. Again, remember, we do have races to continue this weekend as well. If you're continuing to watch the RPL action, we have F1 in Baku tomorrow and F2 in Imola to end off the weekend. 2 tight circuits. We got 1 right now that we got racing action continuing around, and it is Suzuka, and it could be the final restart of the race. We're going to take you off the tires since Reese and Night Owl only have 1 or 2 lap later tires than the ones who just pitted. Green flag will go back in the air. Restart underway. I'll let you take this over.
Night Owl gonna lead and pull away by a second. Tadpole's AI gets out of the way. Side-by-side race with Reese Dainty. And we are just single file back here. No, we are not. Shorts and Penguin going at it for 9.
Side by side to the S section. Shorts has to concede the place, and he does. Penguin advantage to the Red Bull. George is on the back of Beatnik. And you could definitely tell Beatnik, being a Tier 3 full-time driver and not used to this Tier 2 field as much as he used to be, he's going to have a disadvantage. George Williams with a big wiggle wobble there. May have been lag as it got all sorted out, but George still behind the Mercedes driver.
And they are near a second behind the leader, Night Owl.
Dive bomb from George.
Oh, no.
Chalky's out, but George gets through. George got the move done late on the brakes, and he's propelled ahead. Lennon wants a chance now, and Lennon also goes through. Further back, there were also some places trading a little bit further down our field, just in the fringes of the points. I believe that was around where Shorts, Penguin, and Fusion were, but we focus on the front of our field where George is trying to get DRS from Reese before it gets enabled next time by. Moves made into the 130R section where Mintoki gets the teammate, and Penguin is side by side still with Shorts. Unbelievable that they're keeping it this way. Into the Casio triangle, Penguin stays ahead. Wavy got a penalty, so that's outside the points. That's going to hurt his chances of getting points when everything is all said and done. Reese Dainty fastest lap, but he is keeping George Williams out of DRS as it gets activated.
Yeah, 0.8 of a second the lead now. It was about a second a lap ago. Reese is trying to chunk the lead away.
And he's trying to win back-to-back races with it. Night Owl, in his second start for Ferrari specifically, he is trying to win for them as well and get his third Tier 2 win. He loves to win around the U.S. type of circuits on that side of the world, on the America side of the world, but it could be his first win in RPL outside of that region. But 4/10 the gap between Reese and Night Owl. Watch Blue Goggy, who's trailing Shorts, two of the youngest drivers in the field, still staying toe-to-toe. No move made anywhere, but you gotta wonder, can George claw his way into DRS with just a few laps remaining? If so, he's bringing a hungry pack of cars with him, and do they ditch him as well?
They definitely could. Yeah, I mean, those guys are faster than George, and they're gonna pounce on him.
Lennon on the back of George, hounding the back of that McLaren. No DRS for George yet, but Reese Dainty's got it. If our leaders battle, how do the drivers behind take advantage? Do they follow suit? Lennon now not waiting around, gonna try to make the move on George. He does, fastest lap with it. JTK gets Beatnik. Beatnik plummeting down the order, but still in a better spot than he was earlier. Goggy shuts the door and cuts off Shorts right there. Could have been moving onto the brakes, but nonetheless, move made there for the place. Lennon, who passed George for third, is in DRS proximity of our leaders. So although George didn't get it by leading the train, it was Lennon overtaking him, getting it that way. Reese Dainty is all over the back of our leader, trying to win back-to-back races.
Reese is pretty much pounding him, as we see 0.2 of a second the gap, stagnant, and here comes the train behind.
They are there. They are there, and this goes all the way back to now 11th place on our boards. We're gonna go to 4 laps to go this time. Reese Dainty, a little mistake right there into the spoon curve section, but still is within striking distance of our leader. We talked about rear gunners at the start of this race with both McLarens. Game on for Ferrari.
Indeed, and Night Owl made a mistake as Reese made one. As you said, Reese thought about it, tucks back in 0.2 the gap, and Reese is going to have DRS. So Night Owl
Ferrari
down the
only
straight.
won one race last season. That was with Penguin. Right now, they've got 2 cars having an opportunity, and one just set the fastest lap. Reese Dainty is closing in the gap and gonna go the long way around, but cannot do it. Late on the brakes with 4 laps to go. Both Ferraris are there. Both Ferraris have the chance to pull off a 1-2 finish.
And they definitely
Oh,
could
big
do
mistake
it.
from Lennon clipping the curb. Again, those curbs in Sector 1 can be deadly. Georgia Williams on the inside at turn 8 does not pull it off. Remember, Georgia Williams came up 1 spot shy of the victory here the last time we ran here, but he also had heartbreak, a collision with Malley in this race in Season 7. George, maybe the 3rd time lucky? He's got to do it from 4th this time.
He's got to just claw every inch of pace out of him.
Make the most of the circuit, and that Ferrari in front, Night Owl, is making this circuit as wide as possible. Reese Dainty is closing in the gap as well.
No mistakes from these two now.
Reese Dainty, do you pass now or do you wait till later? You know you got both Ferraris in this fight. He does not have a rear gunner like the Ferraris have. Reese Dainty staying in behind and waiting for what's going to be DRS, but he's going for it now on the inside of Night Owl and switching back. He collided with this driver in Portimao last week in the opening round, but still won the race. Side by side behind, but for our lead, with 3 to go, Reese Dainty is through. But is he clear? Side by side, Reese is. Reese got the move done, and Lennon kept 3rd place ahead of George. So class driving from Lennon and class moves from Reese. You gotta love this scintillated action.
Reese in the pretty much sit and duck right now if you're in the lead right now, because that DRS is just so powerful.
Car off, Leon Minor. Lyra Fusion got overtaken as well by Penguin. Not a spot we usually see passes made, but a big mistake from another Ferrari. Lennon lost the rear. George is there to pounce around the outside of the hairpin this time. Wheel to wheel, and Lennon is pinching him, and they both go off. Lennon and him go off the circuit, and that's a Mercedes around. That's Mintoki having more heartbreak to her name late in the race. So, no more contact. So while Lennon and George went off, Mintoki went off as well, trying to get the power down, and it didn't work out. So Ferrari, who had the rear gunner there with Lennon, now no longer have that. JTK is on the podium, and Beatnik is there as well.
Race has been shaken pretty much once again. The front runners who could have saw the win away from Reese Dainty have now just collided. Two laps to go.
It's a 2-horse race because of that faded. And guess what? Beatnik is in the catbird seat for a podium, but the move is made now. Night Owl through.
Reese had 8% battery, whereas Night Owl had 60. Sitting duck Reese Dainty.
You gotta wonder here, if our front two collide, advantage to JTK, who could be getting a back-to-back podium and maybe a first win since Brazil when he won the Constructors title with Red Bull. Beatnik and Penguin, like I said, catbird seat for them. They're waiting in the wings for a mistake from JTK, and JTK, the worst thing that could happen for the two behind him is DRS. He's not far from it.
No, he's...
Oh, he
34
slides!
1,000ths off of it.
Big slide from the Dutchman. Speaking of Dutchman, Lennon, who collided with George there a lap ago, is in DRS of Fusion once again, so advantage there, but JTK may keep 3rd place if Beatnik and Penguin do not have better battery, and JTK gets the DRS, but he does not have it yet.
Well, speaking of the battery situation, Penguin has 70.
Yeah, that's insane.
And Reese is getting closer to Night Owl.
1 lap to go this time. Groggy gets Goggy. As we've said before, 1 lap to go. These two went toe-to-toe in Portimao. Reese Dainty, is it going to be a late race Reese once again? Yes, he is. Around the outside into turn 1. Side by side. Reese propelling ahead for now. But they keep it wheel to wheel, and they're going to go wheel to wheel in the S's. Look at this. Leaning on each other, Night Owl stays in front, and Beatnik got onto the podium with that move in turn 1. What a move from both for the lead and the podium. But there's still more racetrack to go.
Still battling, still going at it. 1/10.5 separate the 2 leaders.
What a story this is for Beatnik as well. Since returning, he's not at a podium. Reese Dainty tried a late move and he couldn't do it. Beatnik, with the battling behind, may have to run away with it. Look at this for 3rd. He's not had a podium in Tier 3 since returning. He may as well put the thing on it in Tier 2.
3/10 separate the leaders as
both McLarens touch.
And they
but
swapped.
As you said, our lead is at stake. Reese Dainty trailing.
And using all the battery for both of them.
Got
Reese
nothing.
at 3.
He's got nothing. for third place. Look at this move. JTK at 130R. Unbelievable. We're going to switch back to it for the first time outside the America region. Night Owl wins. He does it in Japan. And B-Nick's off. B-Nick is off. B-Nick's going to lose the podium.
Down by JTK. And he's
Race Dainty finishes second. JTK third. Penguin fourth. And George fifth. Night Owl wins in Japan. And for the first time outside the Americas region, he's winning an RPL race. It's his fourth overall. Third in Tier 2. But that is utter heartbreak for Beatnik. I don't know what happened there in the Casio Triangle with JTK. But both them, in the same voice chat, surely got to be fuming.
Indeed, and blood is boiling right now.
Yeah. JTK back on the podium for Alpine. But Night Owl back on the top step. Ferrari are victorious this season once again.
Love to see it. The Australian and the
Amazing
fans here in Japan are yelling Aussie, 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 oi, oi, oi for Night Owl.
So here's your results from all that shaking up there. JTK does get the podium after racing it side by side with Beatnik there at the end. Race Dainty out of the final corner almost got Night Owl for the victory. That was super tight. A tenth of difference right there. Night Owl with his fourth RPL win overall, his third in Tier 2. This driver is really proving why he's the right choice for Ferrari and really doing a hell of a job. JTK, back-to-back podium. Race Dainty, back-to-back podium. Keeping the championship lead as well. Limiting the damage on these kind of days. Red Bull, who had a terrible start, recovering with second and fourth. McLaren, fifth and sixth. Gaggy, seventh. Shorts, eighth. Points this time. First time this season. Beatnik, ninth after what was heartbreak for both Mercedes drivers there in the end. Mintoki, 11th. Lennon, 10th. We only lost one driver from the race due to retirement. But Gaggy, 15th to 7th. Who would you give driver of the day to?
I'm gonna give it to Reese Dainty for the comeback drive from all the way pretty much down the grid to P2.
Yeah, I think there's some drivers who got helped with a safety car. I won't give it to Reese, but I'll give it to Night Owl. Maybe he got helped with a safety car, but he ran a really consistent race and was in the fight with George and waited for the right time to shine, and he did. Good recovery by Reese and Penguin. They're in my conversation for it as well. I didn't really catch what happened with Beatnik and JTK, but has anything been said about it?
Pretty much not.
I think the silence tells you how Beatnik feels.
Pretty much, yeah.
Reese Sainty happy with the battle. George Fusion not happy with some driving standards. Oh, Beatnik telling JTK he's not keeping that podium. He said you can't. JTK said you can't turn left when I'm there.
Beatnik frustrated, saying that was his only chance at a good result in Tier 2.
Well, he really could have pulled off the upset, and he deserved to do so tonight, and he just did not, which is very unfortunate. But if he got that podium, he would have been my driver of the day.
Indeed.
I really wish I didn't switch away from that Beatnik and JTK contact, but we had to look at our winner because Reese Dainty almost got him on the line. Night Owl maybe didn't have enough euros to spare out of that final corner. I mean, neither did Reese, to be fair. Well, yeah, it was definitely great races. The chat does acknowledge.
Indeed.
Someone's not a fan of Mintoki. Someone's definitely a big fan of Night Owl, though. And, well, you've got a happy driver probably who won the race as well. Congrats to Ferrari for winning in yet another season. They deserved it. Both Ferraris ran well.
They did until the collision between Lennon and George. George not too frustrated about it.
He definitely has had better days, but I believe if I'm correct, he did finish 5th, so it's his first race in the top 5 since he last won in Vegas. And he's had that little stretch outside the top 5, so it's good to see him back there, but then again, some drivers not happy, some drivers who are, but we're happy because we got to commentate on it and we get to do this once again. I'll be here for Baku tomorrow in Tier 1 alongside Titan Iron Wolf. No, we're not reading up shorts. But yeah, Baku tomorrow for Tier 1. Remember, as I said, Leo Lund has a race ban. Get some drivers in Tier 2. Get to reserve in Tier 1 tomorrow. And Penguin's one of them, and Toki's one of them. We can't wait to see what tomorrow provides in Baku for what could be another change in the championship with it. Round 12, I want to say. Regardless, we had a crazy race there last season. Can't wait to see what this one provides. F2 and Imola to end off the weekend. And we race Zandvoort next week as well. Faded. Any closing thoughts on today's race and expectations for Zandvoort?
Yeah, today's race was, pretty fun with all the, overtakes that happened, before the, round of pit stops. And what I'm expecting for Zandvoort is, pretty much exactly what Ninel said. Ferrari, not going to be too competitive, and the McLarens and Red Bulls, Mercedes as well, should be, the dominant cars of that weekend.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the only thing I was just gonna say to end off the stream is that we did see that correctly when Lennon and George make contact. Lennon slammed the door shut, and George got forced off because of it. I don't know if George is gonna get anything on Lennon for the hairpin incident due to our poor contact model on F124, but I'm pretty sure Lennon might get something for what happened afterwards because that was a bit naughty. Regardless, though. Close action, close racing. Again, join us tomorrow, or join us next week in Zandvoort for round 3 of the season. Nonetheless, I'm Ryan Searles, your commentator, signing off alongside Fata Knights. We will see you next time, whether it be tomorrow for Baku, or whether it be next week in Zandvoort for Tier 2. Good night, and have a good one.
Deuces.